I'm Teisha with Shalom TV's news update for Friday, November the 8th, 2013. We open with a series of violent incidents to report to you about in the West Bank. A woman and her husband were wounded after a Molotov cocktail was hurled at their vehicle near Tekoa in Gush Etzion today. The woman sustained light to moderate wounds while the man was lightly injured. The two Israelis were treated at the scene and then taken to the Hadassah Ein Kerem Hospital in Jerusalem. In a separate incident, a Palestinian man who tried to stab an Israeli border policeman in the West Bank was shot and killed this morning. The border police spokesman said the Palestinian had pulled a knife at a checkpoint in the West Bank near Jerusalem and ignored calls by the border police unit to stop before he was shot and killed. He was identified by Palestinian medical officials as a 23-year-old from Hebron. This follows an incident yesterday when a Palestinian man was shot and killed when he fired a flare gun towards Israeli civilians who were standing at a bus stop at the Tapuach Junction near the West Bank city of Ariel. The IDF released a statement saying that a Palestinian opened fire at a civilian bus stop at Tapuach Junction near Ariel using an improvised weapon, and in order to prevent casualties, IDF soldiers in the area opened fire towards the terrorist, and a hit was identified. No one else was injured in the incident. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry left Israel today for Geneva, where talks continue between Iran and the P5+1 countries. Amid talk of a possible deal with Iran over its nuclear program, Reuters reports that upon arriving in Geneva, Kerry said the parties had not yet reached any deal. The Secretary of State told reporters that there is not an agreement at this point, and no one should mistake that there are some important gaps that still have to be closed. Earlier today, after Kerry had met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem, Netanyahu spoke to the press where he expressed his utter rejection of a supposed deal in the works between Iran and world powers.
I met Secretary Kerry right before he leaves to Geneva. I reminded him that he said that no deal is better than a bad deal. And the deal that is being discussed in Geneva right now is a bad deal. It's a very bad deal. Iran is not required to take apart even one centrifuge. But the international community is relieving sanctions on Iran. For the first time after many years, Iran gets everything that it wanted at this stage and it pays nothing. And this is when Iran is under severe pressure. I urge Secretary Kerry not to rush to sign, to wait, to reconsider, to get a good deal. But this is a bad deal, a very, very bad deal. It's the deal of the century for Iran. It's a very dangerous and bad deal for peace and the international community.
The Prime Minister had also spoken to reporters before meeting with Kerry today, where he expressed a similar sentiment about a supposed deal with Iran, and also said that Israel will do everything it needs to do to defend itself and the security of its people, not only with regard to Iran, but also with regard to the peace talks between Israel and the Palestinians.
I will never compromise on Israel's security and our vital interests, not in the face of any international pressure. I think the pressure has to be put where it belongs, that is, on the Palestinians who refuse to budge.
Meanwhile, Secretary of State Kerry was expected to hold a meeting today in Geneva with European Union Foreign Policy Chief Catherine Ashton and Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif. A senior U.S. State Department official said that Kerry was committed to doing, quote, anything he can to narrow differences with Iran as the world powers aim to prevent the Islamic Republic from achieving nuclear weapons. Reuters reports that UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, has suspended the voting rights of both Israel and the United States, 2 years after they stopped paying dues to the group in protest over UNESCO granting full membership to the Palestinians. The U.S. canceled its funding of UNESCO back in 2011 due to U.S. laws that prohibit funding to any UN agency that implies recognition of the Palestinians' demand for their own state. Israel also pulled its funding in objection to over what it called unilateral attempts by the Palestinians to gain recognition of statehood. A UNESCO source told Reuters that both the U.S. and Israel missed a deadline this morning to provide official justification for the non-payment, causing an automatic suspension of their voting rights. U.S. Ambassador to UNESCO David Killian said the U.S. plans to continue engagement with UNESCO in every possible way. He said he considers the group a critical partner in creating a better future. UNESCO is responsible for, among other things, designating World Heritage Sites and for promoting global education. This weekend marks the 75th anniversary of Kristallnacht, or the Night of Broken Glass, the beginning of Hitler's final solution. Across Germany and Austria on November the 9th and 10th of 1938, at least 96 Jews were murdered. More than 1,000 synagogues were set on fire. Nearly 7,500 Jewish-owned businesses were destroyed. Countless community centers, libraries, and homes were attacked, looted, and destroyed. And approximately 30,000 Jews were rounded up and sent to concentration camps. Commemorations and programs are taking place across the globe to remember the event. The American Jewish Committee and the German Consulate hosted a commemoration ceremony for the anniversary this morning at the German House at UN Plaza. And tomorrow, AJC Executive Director David Harris and German Consul General Busso van Alvensleben will speak on the meaning of Kristallnacht, and two witnesses will offer their personal perspectives and memories of the tragic events. And the American Jewish Committee is calling for greater coordination across Europe in combating present-day anti-Semitism. This follows the release yesterday of a survey of the European Union Fundamental Rights Agency on the discrimination and hate crimes against Jews in EU member states. The survey looked at responses from nearly 6,000 Jews in the 8 EU member states with the largest Jewish communities. It is the first such study to collect comparable data on Jewish experiences of anti-Semitism. Director of the AJC Transatlantic Institute, Daniel Schwamenthal, said the survey confirms troubling reports that the AJC has read in the past about the growing presence of anti-Semitism in Europe. According to the survey, more than 3/4 of those asked believe that anti-Semitism was on the rise, with 21% of respondents saying they have experienced at least one incident of anti-Semitic verbal insult or harassment and/or a physical attack in the past year, which shows an increase from 7% in the 5 years prior to the survey. Many of those who reported harassment said they didn't report those incidents to the authorities, and nearly a third of those asked said they considered leaving Europe altogether because of safety concerns. Thousands of Jewish community leaders from across the globe will convene in Israel this Sunday for the Jewish Federations of North America General Assembly of 2013. Over 3,000 participants from 93 different communities across North America, Israel, and Europe will join the, quote, Global Jewish Shuk, a marketplace of dialogue and debate. The conference will focus on the future of Israel and its relationship with the diaspora and the challenges facing North American Jewry today. Speakers at the GA include Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as well as Israeli President Shimon Peres, and various other members of the Israeli government, as well as business and community leaders. The GA begins on Sunday and will conclude on Tuesday with a walk to the Western Wall in what is being called, quote, a dramatic celebration of Jewish unity and of Jerusalem's centrality to the Jewish people. And tonight on Shalom TV, live Shabbat services begin at 6 p.m. from New York City's Central Synagogue. That is followed by the Shabbat Shirah concert at 8 p.m. That's here on Shalom TV and ShalomTV.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Friday, November the 8th, 2013. I'm Teisha Bader. Shabbat Shalom.